have to provide services to our targeted subgroups. So as you can see in between 14-15 and 15-16, we have an increase of 7.85%. So that's the item, the number that we're going to be showing in our LCAP, that we're providing services, increasing our services to the targeted subgroups.
Nancy, before you go on,
Yes.
I can see, just to share for those who can't see, in 13-14, we had approximately $204 million total for our budget. Then as it goes to 2014-15, it's gone up about $20 million. So we know that this year, the one we're sitting in right now, we had an increase of $20 million. As we go to next year, you can see here 15-16, it goes up again to $246 million. So another $20 million in our coming year. But what I really want to point out is the out years right here, the 16-17 and 17-18, it's predicted that we then will plateau and stabilize. So you can see 16-17, it will be 251 million, and then 17-18, 256. So the current year we're sitting in with a few days left, and next year are the big jumps. So then you can see it will start to plateau. So very significant, and it went a lot faster than the governor initially had proposed in these 2 years that we're currently sitting in.
Right, and so this next slide shows that a little clearer. So you can see that, again, Dr. Meyer was mentioning these amounts up here, which was our phase-in funding. And at the very bottom is the amount of change for our targeted subgroups. And you can see in 16-17, we're actually, it's a negative here because since we're receiving a less percentage, it decreases our minimum percentage. We're already getting that high. The other thing that's interesting is this line here is the amount of funding from year to year. So you can see in 14-15, we got 1.6 million towards the targeted. 15-16, because we're getting 53% of the targeted amount we're supposed to be getting, we're up to that amount. And then in 16-17, you can see that it's just flat.
So when you say targeted, you're referring to?
I'm referring to the subgroups, the foster youth, English language learners, and low-income students. And again, just to, the add-ons are the targeted instructional services, and it's transportation. And you can see that we receive the same amount every single year. So those are add-ons that are, the amounts aren't changing. There's no COLA attached to that, cost of living adjustment, and there's no increase of those at all. So just to be aware that we are getting a minimal amount for transportation. And again, it's not restricted to transportation. The next slide is, again, this is showing that the top, whoops. The top table is what the Lcff target is. So we're targeted, if we were fully funded, to get the $267 million. But because in 15-16 we're only getting 91.99% of the funding, we end up getting the $246 million. And this breaks it down by the grade levels. This is just a graph of the average per pupil. As you saw the previous slide, that each grade level, grade span gets a different amount. So this is the average. And you can see how we are getting higher and higher. But all of us would love to see it go off this graph to have a per pupil above $9,000. So some of the changes that from January. Again, I mentioned that in January the LCFF gap percentage was 32.19%, which is now 53. .08. We also may be receiving a one-time discretionary funds estimated at $601 per ADA. But again, this is one of those things that's being discussed between the houses, and I believe we'll probably get one-time money. The per ADA amount is probably going to be changing. And what we're supposed to be using that for, it's unrestricted. It goes against the mandated cost reimbursements that are due us, but we should be using it for standards implementation, professional development, teacher induction, purchase of instructional materials or technology. So again, all of those items were categorical programs in the past. The next is cost of living increase. The cost of living adjustment decreased by a small amount. And then the final one is Mount Diablo. I had to change this again, whoops, from will receive to may receive, because we keep hearing that we are going to get it, and then we're not sure if we're going to get it. But the state is providing some kind of transitional funding for the ending of QIA, and I believe because of our makeup in our district of having the little pockets of the concentration of the targeted subgroups, that we will be getting some money. So.
And if I could share on that, I wanted to thank Medea, who has worked with our district to lobby on behalf of this QIA funding. It initially was written into the governor's proposal in the summary, and then the staff on the other side, they decided that they wanted to pull it. It then went to the Assembly, whom approved it. It is now in the Senate, and we don't know whether it will be approved. And so it is still in play, if you will. Also, to go back to the 601 discretionary, sounds very much like the Common Core money, same kind of things that it should be used for. So it is really that idea that we need to look at a continuous funding source to support this program, and one time was not enough.
So for the budget, the QIA amount is not going to be included in the budget since it's unknown. However, I did include a $600 per ADA in the budget, although we didn't budget for the expenses because we're not sure how we're going to use it, so in the future. Some of the other items that, just to note, again, there has been nothing talked about with the CalSTRS and CalPERS cost and how much they're increasing. The repeal of the reserve cap is in conversation now. And then also what needs to be part of the budget, which is very difficult to figure out, is the sick leave requirement and the implementation on how we're going to be able to do that, and then how the Affordable Care Act is going to affect us. So, and that's it.
Isn't there on the CalSTRS, CalPERS, I don't even know if it's on CalSTRS, CalPERS, but the donation that districts are going to be required to make toward pensions is steadily increasing. I mean, actually, it's not even steadily, it's exponentially increasing over the next few years.
It is. And from last year, it was, there was one year that was a really big jump, and then they kind of eased it down, and I'm sure it's going to be changing constantly. And although I think that the investments on both CalPERS and CalSTRS, they've increased, I don't know if that's going to help us or not, but it's...
There was some frightening percentages I saw of the impact as districts absorb more of that because of the debt from the state. It's a frightening impact on us over the next few years.
And again, we're getting some money, more money for LCFF, but then we needed to spend it on this, and it's not an even distribution.
Right.
So
I just wanted to point that out, that it's not just a great windfall. There's also a catch on the other end that they're not revealing.
Yes, and especially when they keep just giving us one-time money as opposed to this ongoing expense.
Right,
so.
which is an ongoing expense and going up since we absorb more of the debt at district levels, not just Mount Diablo, all of us.
And Nancy, briefly, the sick leave, could you share how that will impact us and with coaches and substitutes?
So with the sick leave requirement, any employee, no matter what position they have, not necessarily full-time or permanent employees, any employee that works for our district more than 30 hours receives, I believe it's an hour of sick leave that they get to use. So we have to implement a way, we started already implementing, keeping track of those hours because of the Affordable Care Act, but we have to keep track of the how the substitutes are, or hourly people, how much they're working, and then they're going to be accruing sick leave, and then they're going to be able to use the sick leave. And this requirement is I'm sure going to be coming up for question, because I think they're realizing that there's a lot of people who either are teacher subs or classified subs in multiple districts, and they basically can get paid twice on the day because they can take a sick leave from one district but then get paid on another district. So I don't think the state has really thought that one through, so I have a feeling there might be some adjustments for education.